Hey, what's going on guys, and welcome back to another guide. Today we're going to be covering the Slayer boss, Alchemical Hydra. Hydra, as it's known in short, is one of the endgame bosses you will find towards the back end of your Slayer grind towards 99. With bountiful amount of rare and key drops, many venture here and normally stay for a while. Let's go over what we will cover in this guide, but before we do, as always, if you are new to the channel, please do consider subscribing so you're kept up to date with our latest content, and hitting that like button if this guide has helped you out. In today's guide, we will be covering what useful add-ons you should use, how to get there, the recommended stats, gear and inventory setup, and the boss mechanics, and including some tips and tricks to killing the boss. Before we get into the video, I've also provided the timestamps in the description below, as well as on screen now, so that you can navigate the video at your choosing. First plugin I would recommend downloading and turning on is NPC Indicators. NPC Indicators allows you to tag Hydra so they can easily see where his hitbox is, and it also helps you to establish, most importantly, where Hydra is standing. We will cover this in a bit more detail later in the video. However, in order to tag an NPC in game, you will need to hold shift and right click and then select tag Alchemical Hydra. Ground markers is another great plugin that I would recommend using because it allows you to mark a tile on the floor, which is very important during Hydra to know where to stand. So putting these markers on the floor will give you an indication of where to stand during each part of the fight. In order to mark a tile on the floor, you need to hold shift, right click and select mark tile. You can also change the tile colour to a different colour of your choosing, but it's worth noting that I will be putting all the ground markers in the description below for you to copy and import them into your game. Tile indicators and improved tile indicators are another great set of plugins because it will help you with your movement in game. Turning on highlight destination tile will indicate which tile you have clicked, as well as the tile that you are moving to. Also, by turning on highlight true tile, this will help you know where your character exactly is at that specific moment in time. The main route to the Slayer dungeon is directly north of the Fairy Code CIP, which is the farming guild, via the shortcut up the mountain to the main area. It requires 29 agility to climb the first shortcut and then 62 agility to climb the next shortcut to the top of the mountain. Alternatively, you can use the teleport via the Karen prayer scroll Rada's Blessing, acquired through completing the Karen diaries. Completing the hard diary will get you 3 daily teleports, and completing the elite diary will get you unlimited teleports to the mountain, and the boots of stone will no longer be required when entering the different chambers of the Slayer dungeon. You can also use the bank at the top of the mountain via the prayer scroll teleport, or you can use your house teleport runes and then head to your preferred banking location. Once inside the Slayer dungeon, you'll need to head north over the barrier and then head east. If you do take this route, please bear in mind that the red line indicates that you will be required to wear the boots of stone before venturing further. However, as mentioned before, if you have completed the elite diaries, then you'll no longer need to use the boots of stone. You can also use the level 87 agility shortcut to get to the Hydra's lair by using a summer pie, which gives you a 5+ boost in agility, meaning that you can use the shortcut as low as level 82 agility. Outside the room of Hydra is Orvor, who holds any items after you die, so do be sure to visit him if you do die before your next trip, and retrieving items from him costs 100k GP per death, so take your time when killing Hydra. The base offensive stats I would recommend having when killing Hydra is a base of 90 on all offensive skills, with a minimum of 74 prayer. This is so that you can use Rigor for the extra defense and range bonus. However, I do understand that if you can't afford the prayer scroll or you're an Ironman, then Eagle Eye is also sufficient. It's also worth noting, and I'm probably going to state the obvious here, is that you'll need 95 Slayer to receive a Hydra task. And the best chance of getting a Hydra task is from the Konar Slayer Master, which is on the mountain above the Slayer dungeon. And finally, also 82+ agility, so that you can boost with the summer pie to use the shortcut to the lair. However, this isn't 100% required, as you're able to run into the dungeon, run north over the barrier, and then run east. And by having the agility requirement, it will just speed up your runs every trip. There is 2 recommended gear setups, not only for range but for melee too. On the left, this is the best setup I would recommend in terms of using ranged. If you can't afford it, then switch out the Anguish for the Fury for more defense and the Big Asian boots for God D'hide boots. But it is highly recommended to use Crystal Armor and the Boffer when doing Hydra. The Light Bear is simply there for the boosted recharge on the special attack for your blowpipe specs for extra heals, essentially extending your trips. In terms of the head slot, I would use the Slayer Helmet imbued because you're on task, a minimum of the Ava's Assembler, the Necklace of Anguish, the Rod of Blessing 4, if you haven't completed the Elite Diaries for Karen, then using the Rod of Blessing 3, the Corrupted Boffer, the Crystal Body and Legs, the Barrow's Gloves, Big Asian Boots, and Light Bearer. Now obviously you can upscale and downscale a little bit with this setup, but obviously this I would say is the best medium. In terms of the melee setup, I would recommend only doing once you've got the Lance, which I got lucky and I got it at 66 KC on my Ironman. And when you feel confident in doing Hydra, then that's when you probably would switch to the melee setup. Melee is probably one of the best ways to get the good DPS you need to complete combat achievements. However, it is still achievable when doing the range setup as well. But don't get bogged down in this, I just wanted to add a variation in just to give you guys a way to do the Hydra boss in a melee setup. My best advice in terms of gear variation is to max out your gear to what you can afford. In terms of the melee setup, I would recommend taking the Slayer Helm imbued because you're on task, a Fire Cape, the Amulet of Torture, the Rod of Blessing 4, the Dragon Hunter Lance. If you haven't got the Dragon Hunter Lance because you're an Ironman or you can't afford it, then going maybe with the Fang and using the stab option when you're attacking Hydra. The Bandos Chestplate, the Dragon Defender, Bandos Tassets, Barrow's Gloves, Primordial Boots, and the Light Bearer, and using the Light Bearer for the Bandos Godsword specs. If you wanted to switch out the Light Bearer, then you could switch it out for the Altar Ring. So let's talk about some of the inventory setups that you'll need for Hydra. We'll start with a ranging inventory. In the ranging inventory, you will need 1 to 2 ranging potions 4 dose, 5 to 6 prayer potions 4 dose, 1 antidote plus 4 dose. You can take a normal anti-poison, but the antidote plus will extend the amount of time that it will take for the next poison to hit again. A rune pouch with teleport and alchemical runes, because obviously there's going to be a lot of rune items that you can alch. A toxic blowpipe for regaining some HP with the spec. A slaughter bracelet. And 16 to 18 high healing food. And sea turtle seems to be relatively cheap on the GE right now, and they heal 22 HP per food. In terms of getting back and forth between trips, the rejuvenation pool in the POH is quite handy for quick restores in between trips. Or you can use the Ring of Dueling to go to the Ferox Enclave to restore, and then you could tele back using the Rada's Blessing. The Bracelet of Slaughter is very handy when it comes to a Hydra task because it can be difficult to get the tasks easily, but in order to prolong the tasks, I would recommend taking a Slaughter Bracelet. Equip the Slaughter Bracelet before you end the kill will prolong the task by average about 33%. And it has a 25% chance of working, so when you kill Hydra, it won't count towards the task. In terms of the melee setup, there's only a few changes, but I would take, instead of the ranging potions, obviously you would be taking the super combat potions 4 dose, and instead of taking the blowpipe, I'd be taking either a Bandos Godsword or a Void Waker. If you have got a Void Waker, I'd strongly recommend taking this, as you will get some decent spec hits out of using your spec on Hydra. Obviously, still taking your Slaughter Bracelet, your Ring and Dueling if you're going to be teleporting out to the Ferox Enclave, or your House Teleports to teleport to your POH for a quick restore. But other than that, it's pretty much the same setup for your melee. So before you go into a kill with Hydra, make sure you potter with a range potion, turn Protect from Mage on, your Rigger and your Preserve, and head over to Tile 1. Fortunately, his first attack is a mage attack, and a mage attack looks very similar to a green venom spit, and he's on the vent, and as you can see, he flicks his head back, so you make sure you change to Protect from range. On the 4th attack, he'll then throw out some venom, and you need to move to Tile 2. This is what a range attack looks like. It looks like a bit of a spear that goes towards you. And then you move on to tile 3. Just making sure from tile 2, 3 and 4 that you do a few attacks as you're dragging Hydra towards the vent. And as he flicks his head back, making sure you change your prayers accordingly to his attack style. And now that you're on tile 6, he's in position. And you can now wait for the next phase, which is going to be the lightning phase. So we just got to get the Hydra down to 75%. Goes into his blue phase. He roars, which means his defense is lowered. And you know that he's been hit by the vent once you can see the roar above his head. And when he's in this lightning phase, as you'll see in a second, that a lightning bolt will go into the middle of the room and also towards his feet. You want to keep an eye on his feet because that's where the lightning bolt's going to hit. And when that happens, you need to run east towards tile 8, which is another blue tile. Once you get to tile 8, you'll be safe from the lightning. And then you need to move to tile 9 and then to tile 10 and get Hydra in position for the red phase. So once it gets into position for the red phase, which is now, you can see that it's roared and then the defense is lowered for you to attack. And he's on the vent correctly. And you just keep alternating your prayers accordingly to his attack style as he's flicking his head back. Now he goes into the middle and he's going to do his flame phase, making sure you don't attack him as you go to the tile 12. His flames come out. Once the flames come out originally, you need to then wait a tick. And once you wait a tick, then you move on to tile 13 as the flames go onto the tile 12 as well as the tile to the east of 12. And you stay on 13 until the Hydra enrage phase. So once you get to 25%, Hydra will turn into an enrage phase and go black. And the first attack style will be opposite to the last attack that you got on the red phase. So if it was range on the last attack on the red phase, it will be mage to start with on the enrage phase. And then for the first 3 attacks will be mage, range, mage. And then the 4th attack will be a venom that spits out. But on that attack, if it was mage on the 3rd attack, then the 4th attack will continue to be range, even though it will be in a venom attack, because he will attack with range soon after the venom attack. And as you can see here, he spits the venom on his 4th attack and continues to hit with range. And then all you need to do is alternate your attacks like you do at Zulrah until you've killed Hydra. Very simple fight. It can be a little bit daunting at first, however, you'll get it in the end. It just takes a little bit of perseverance and a bit of timing. And like I say, if you put your slaughter bracelet on, then you'll make sure it doesn't count towards your task kill. So I also want to do a perspective from a melee side as well. If you want to do Hydra from a melee perspective, then it's just basically manipulating Hydra with the tiles that you've got marked and getting him into position on the vents. I know this is a very, very quick sped up kill, but it's just using the tiles as melee just to drag Hydra into the positions, as you can see here, and just making sure that you can manipulate him the best way you can. And in terms of melee, when it comes to attacking on the 4th attack on the enraged phase here with the venom, you just need to wait for the flame wall to disappear and then run round to attacking with melee. So you might need to stand there for a few seconds, but other than that, it's very straightforward. So just to recap a few things and just go over a few mechanics during the fight that you've just seen, is that Hydra will alternate his attack styles from mage to range every 3 hits, and it's random at the start of the fight, but majority of the time it is starting with mage. In terms of standing Hydra on the vents, making sure on the green phase that you move Hydra onto the red vent at the start, but you'll naturally do that when you move on to tile 1, and then moving it on to the green vent to ensure that it changes into a blue phase and loses a head, and then from 75% to 50% moving it gradually towards the blue vent so that the blue Hydra will then turn into a red phase Hydra, and then when he moves into the middle as the red phase Hydra, then obviously you're going to then move on to getting the enraged phase. Some of the key mechanics, obviously the green phase will spit out the poison, the blue phase will spit out the lightning, and the red phase will spit out the flame walls. So just bearing in mind what we've talked about and in the slow motions that you saw during the Hydra kill, just bearing in mind what you need to do and just keeping aware of your surroundings. And finally, with Hydra on his enrage phase from 25% to 0% HP, is that when Hydra enrages at 25%, he'll alternate his attacks like Zulrah from mage, range, mange, etc. And the first attack will always be the opposite to the last attack in the previous red phase of Hydra. On his fourth attack, he'll spit out a venom as a special attack, and it will remain the same attack for that fourth attack. So for example, if his third attack was range, then the fourth attack after the venom is spat will be mage. So with all that information, I really do hope that this guide has helped you, and that you can apply it in your runs at Hydra when you get a task and efficiently get it down so that you can start to get all the really unique loot from Hydra. I really do hope that this guide has helped you, and please do leave us a like if you found this guide helpful, and do consider subscribing to our channel so you do not miss any of our content. If you haven't already, on screen now you'll be able to see some of our other guides, and you'll be able to click on there. Hopefully we'll help you out with them. If you want to leave a comment in the comment section below with a suggestion on what our next guide should be, then please do so, and we'll take a look and we'll try and get that on the channel for you. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.